Live from Los Angeles. It's time to get inside the Gamers Dome with your host, Scott Gerhardt. Bringing you all of today's gaming news and information all in one place. Sit back and enjoy the ride. Welcome to the Gamers Dome.
Welcome everyone to episode 22 of the Gamers Dome. I am your host, Scott Gerhardt, and this week we have a special co-host. He used to be the lead designer for Score Entertainment, produced a number of TCGs like the Dragon Ball Z card game that I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, and others as well. He's a guy I've known for many, many, many years, David Chipmunk Eckhard. How you doing,
Hey,
Chipmunk?
everybody.
So, welcome to the show, and thank you for being on with us. It's going to be nice to have some of your insight as a game developer on some of these things.
Well, thanks for having me on. And, yeah, it's been real exciting. I mean, the past week with E3 and everything, all the stuff that's been shown off, 2 new consoles, lots of video games, lots of people's visions for how the future is going to be for gaming. It's been kind of exciting.
What probably excited you the most from E3?
Well, I think the console battle between Microsoft and Sony kind of took the center stage in front of everything, but that was kind of hyped up for a while. So, with PlayStation and Microsoft dueling it out on the same day.
Yeah, it was pretty much the same thing for me. I mean, it was the big clash of the titans there, and we're going to start off this week's news and information by hitting that exact topic here. So we now know exactly what these systems are going to cost. The Xbox One is $499, the PS4 is $399. The Xbox comes with the camera, the PS4 does not. We have a lot more information here on this. I know you and I were jabbing a little bit before the show about where we come out on this, but where do you come out? Which side are you on in this whole debate?
Well, between the 2 consoles, I'm going to have to say that, at least to me, the PlayStation 4 was the clear winner. They put a lot of focus on basically a lot of bad press that Microsoft came across the past couple of weeks. I mean, with all the DRM stuff and everything they tried to cut off before E3, and I think Microsoft was really hoping that their presentation at the beginning of E3 would kind of kill the momentum of all that PR. They were trying to kill it off at the pass. But it didn't turn out too well. There wasn't a whole lot of stuff that really seemed too impressive to me as a consumer as far as the Xbox went. I think part of the problem is that I use the internet for most of everything. So, and that includes all my TV shows. You know, I stream Netflix, Hulu, Couch Tuner. So the idea of the Xbox being like a media center didn't necessarily appeal to me because I already kind of have access to that. And I think that the major big move, the worst move they could have made, was going before Sony. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I actually do agree. It was one of those you want to play last type deals, and I think they in the end felt like they would get overshadowed if they completely waited to E3, so they made a calculated move, and I don't think it paid off.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of sad that a major selling point that gets a standing ovation is that you can lend your disc games to other people, that you can resell your games. Like, the fact that the entire press corps seemed to, like, jump up and hoot and holler just at that point, let alone anything else in the PlayStation 4 press conference, should make a resounding point.
Yeah, I agree completely, because here's the thing. The reason people are willing to pay $60 for games a lot of times are because they know that the game has resale value. You'll be able to sell it back later or trade it, or you're getting some of your 60 back. And if you can't do anything with the game afterwards, now you're talking a legitimate $60 output, and it adds up pretty fast.
Yeah, it does. Especially when the big blockbuster games are all like 10 to 20 hours now. It seems like there's not as much value.
Yeah, exactly. You're just not getting the bang for your buck that you used to. So I do feel like Sony's done a good trump in that area, but I also feel like Xbox is going to feel a lot of pressure. They've got the more expensive system at $499, and they've got the other DRM issues. I think they're going to eventually cave, and maybe they're setting themselves up negatively at first so that they can, quote-unquote, listen to the fans and then give them what they want, which is what Sony's giving them already.
Well, whatever it is, they really need to turn their PR around. I mean, like, one of the things they said in their press conference was that they put all these new, like, I guess semi-DRM is how they're trying to spin it, as far as giving the publishers the ability to control the used game market and lending it to people, etc., etc. They said that they did that for the publishers to give them power. And then you've got EA and all the major publishers out there going, no, we haven't even begun to think about that. No. I'm sure a couple of them may be lying and are just saying that for PR, but it's kind of amazing how all the concepts around the DRM that Microsoft is doing feels like oil and water, and all the publishers are just rushing away.
Well, yeah, right now, especially companies like EA that have had issues with this as of late, they just don't want any association with anything that's DRM or anything at all right now. So it'll be interesting. I'm sure we're going to get more information as things go on, as the PR machines do crank stuff out. But let's jump off of this debate here. I want to talk about something that I actually squeed when I saw this, and I felt like a little girl when I did. The Super Smash Brothers for Wii U trailer was recently released, and we have a new character, and it is probably, if not my favorite, definitely in the top 3 of my favorite video game characters of all time, and that would be Mega Man.
Yeah, that was pretty hot.
Yeah, I'm old enough at this point that I played the original Mega Man games, and I've always been a fan. And while I've only played a little bit of Smash to this point, it really makes me want to run out and get this game just so I can play as Mega Man.
Oh, yeah. Well, as a Smashaholic, I've already been somewhat committed to buying it, even since before that they announced that it was going to be made. It's just kind of addicting, and I have a good group of friends that I can sit down and play with, so we get a lot of the 4-player in the same room action going on, and it's a blast. So, played the heck out of Melee, so much that the little message that you get after like 5,000 games, we actually got like 3 times, because the memory card reformatted on us twice. So it's very exciting. But what's interesting is they actually announced 2 other characters that, at least online, is garnering a lot more attention. It's kind of like overshadowing Mega Man, which is kind of disappointing because he's my favorite character of the 2. But the Villager and the Wii Fit Trainer are also going to be playable characters in the new Smash Brothers.
I am not excited about either of those.
Well, there's a lot of memes being generated, at least with the Villager, but the fact that these are two characters that are so, like, who would have thought they would have actually been chosen for the roster? Is kind of causing a lot of people to start to speculate exactly who else, as far as new additions, are actually going to be made.
The Wii Fit Trainer. I actually had not heard that. That is awesome.
Yeah. Look it up online. There are a lot of crazy memes based off of both of them. So, because the Villager has that, like, deadpan happy look.
Yeah.
But, you know, he's, like, catching Mario in the net and all this stuff, so he's supposed to be, like, brutal, etc., but he's still smiling with that deadpan look. It's kind of crazy. So, I'm excited about the new Smash Brothers. I'm excited to see what they're going to do as far as the free-to-play realm. I believe they just recently announced it's supposed to be the Steel Diver game that I think they originally launched on the 3DS, if I got that right.
Yeah, I believe that is what it is. Yeah, Nintendo trying out the free-to-play model.
Yeah.
But, and within that same vein, sticking on Nintendo news, they announced how things like Mario and Pokemon would never actually be released on, like, mobile gaming systems, as far as, like, phones, like iOS and Android and basically any non-Nintendo system, because they want to keep exclusive rights to how the characters are controlled and they work, and they can only do that if they're using their own hardware. I'm not buying that. I think they just don't want to license it out, or delve into these other markets, which I completely understand. I mean, you don't necessarily want to dilute your talent pool there working on other things that really aren't yours. I mean, when I think Nintendo, I don't think, oh, let's pick up my iPhone and play a Nintendo game.
Well, I think part of it is their perspective. I mean, I agree it is very strong brand control. As long as they keep it under their roof, you know, they can completely control all aspects of all of their icons, ranging from Mario to Pikachu. But I think it's more about their philosophy, really. Like, Sony and Microsoft, they're computer and software companies. That's their technology companies. That's how they have a perspective and view things, even though that their views are slightly different, like we got to see at E3 this past week. But Nintendo is more of an actual gaming company. I mean, they started with playing cards before even the first Nintendo Entertainment System. And you can kind of see that as their products have evolved over time, whether it be crazy controllers like the Nintendo 64's Batarang, you know, to even trying to always do something new, like with the Wii U screens that they're using now. So I think if you keep that in mind, it makes a little bit more sense as far as they're wanting to keep their brands to their toys, you know, to their games.
Yeah, and
they don't view it in like a software level. Like I doubt we'd ever see a Mario movie.
No, I agree on that. I felt like their reasoning. I just wish they had just said, "Listen, these are Nintendo characters. We just want to keep them on our systems because that's just what we do." I mean, that's who we are. And I felt like they kind of came out with a lame excuse, which, whatever, it's fine. It's what
do you expect them to say, though?
Say there are characters, we want them on our system.
Yeah, but you got to be a little bit more tactful. Although they weren't exactly so tactful with their response to the whole reselling and using thing debate going on between the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox. Did you hear, like, I think it was Reggie, he was saying that, you know, really, if they're having issues with used games, they should make their games better, you know, and have more replayability. Because compared to the rest of the industry, we have a very low reselling value. And that's because we put quality content in our games.
Nice.
Yeah, it was pretty kind of tongue-in-cheek, that kind of felt.
Well, I mean, Nintendo's got to get themselves into that debate here. They're kind of, I mean, the Wii U has certainly not done what they had hoped it was going to do, and they're kind of sitting back going, we want to play. So they've got to do something.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
So into the realm of crude humor, and I do love me some good crude humor. South Park, The Stick of Truth. We got to see the trailer for that as well, and this is just raunchy and
South Park.
Oh yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's exactly what you would expect from South Park. I'm not arguing with it, but like your primary weapon is like farting into your cupped hand and then lighting it on fire and flinging it at an opponent. I mean,
yeah, I'm getting that day one for sure.
I've got just for the non-stop laughing factor of like, yep, that's South Park.
Yeah. What I really liked was how close they got it to how the show actually looks. Now that the show is done with computers and everything, you know, they've made that transition, and the game looks really like the show. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, mind you, this is a cartoon to begin with, but I've been saying for a while that video games are starting to do a good job of blurring the line between video games and actual like theatrical type content. And you're right. I mean, it feels like you're interacting with a show rather than playing a video game, which is really cool.
Like the Heavy Rain game and their new Beyond Two Souls, which looked great. They showed some new footage, apparently some stuff. Well, I don't want to reveal any spoilers, but they definitely, if you're interested in it, you should go check it out. They've got new footage, totally new stuff for the story. It looks extremely great.
So,
plus, like, another game that really did that well, and that just came out recently, The Last of Us. Have you seen or gotten to play that yet?
I have not.
Oh my goodness, that game is hot. I wouldn't necessarily give it a 10 out of 10. I'd probably give it like a 9.5, but it really is in the same direction as Uncharted, but way better. The way that they mix all the cinematic action into the gameplay elements, and they really got the survival horror right. Like, if you have double digits in bullets, you're a very happy person.
Nice.
Yeah, it's very tight. You really feel and get into that world as far as having to scavenge and how the world has come to terms with the zombie breakout that happens in it. The first 10 minutes of it's amazing. Oh my goodness, like some of the best, I guess, cinematic moments or cinematic gaming moments that have come out this year. Only to be rivaled by BioShock Infinite, in my opinion. Like the first 10 minutes are almost make you disappointed in the next couple of hours of the game. Not that it's bad. It's just the first 10 minutes, shock you so much and put you for so much of a ride that even with the well done pacing throughout the game, it just like you really have to start getting into the world before you start going, okay, yeah. Because the first 10 minutes are so great.
See, now you're getting me excited about that. That's another game on my plate.
Well, if you don't necessarily want to play it, a friend of mine was telling me this was the best movie he's ever seen. He's been like watching stuff on YouTube and just watching people play on Twitch, because a lot of the combat sequences and fights and stuff, it's not done Heavy Rain style. You have full control and whatnot, but just the way that the characters react and things go, it does really feel like you're watching a movie if you don't have a controller in your hand.
Wow.
It's done so well. Yeah.
That's impressive. So I want to I'm going to try to finish wrapping up the content here that I've got. The announcement on the Microsoft Xbox games, while they have announced a $500 system, they've also announced that they're basically not going up in price on their games. There was a lot of speculation that the game's average retail could go up to $69.99 or $70, and they have said that they're going to be maxing out at $60, just like the PS4. So thank goodness for that. I mean, it's like small miracles. Wow, you're not going to charge us $70 for a game. Yay.
Yeah, that was kind of expected. I mean, when they did the initial jump as the industry from $50 to $60 per games, there was already a lot of backlash and a lot of complaining and moaning. So I don't think they really could have handled making any type of jump above the $60 price point. And with a lot of the games on both systems being able to be digitally downloaded with different focuses, like the PlayStation 4 is focusing more on like the indie stuff for their digital downloads. Like in their presentation, they had like 8 or 9 different indie companies showing their stuff off. I think that they're also going to be focusing on a lot more cheaper games. I think maybe $10 to $20 on consoles will start becoming new lower price points as far as like indie games or smaller non-AAA, non-massive online, some type of game that requires thousands of developers. Shops that are a lot smaller, I think, will start placing their price points at $10 to $20, and that'll actually be aggressively targeted on both systems. That's my guess. Yeah.
So, jumping off of video games, because we spend a lot of time on videos, I want to discuss TCGs and an impending record that we have that is about to be broken. So, we covered this a few months ago, that Grand Prix Charlotte set the record for the largest Magic the Gathering tournament, and I hesitate to say, I'm fairly certain, the largest trading card game tournament, period. At 2,593. I know of no other card game that got anything close to that. So 2,593. Well, Grand Prix Vegas is this weekend, and we have guaranteed that it is going to break that record. The last I heard, just the pre-registrations, the last number I heard was 3,050, and that was, I believe, last night. And they've been getting 100+ pre-regs a day. I've been predicting for a while that this could very easily hit 4,000 players. So I think we're going to be at 3,400 pre-regged, and then there's still going to be 500-600 players at least that are going to come up and try to do online or on site. I don't think it's a good idea. They could potentially be looking at caps, but if you haven't been keeping up with the media or the Magic media on this event, you might not realize it's going to be as insane as it is. So you might just be like, "Oh, okay, it's a Grand Prix. I'll just show up and play."
Yeah, I would definitely pre-reg if I was going to play, because they may just cut off everybody that shows up and says, "Look, we don't have the space. We don't have the product. We don't have enough," because that's going to be a lot. That's going to be a ton.
Yep. So we're going to stay actually with this theme when we come back. We're going to have special guest Robert Gonzales on the show. He finished 9th at Pro Tour Gatecrash in Montreal. He's the current Nebraska state champion, a regular rider for Star City Games, and he's going to talk a little bit about Grand Prix Vegas and its unique format and how he's been preparing for it. You are listening to the Gamers Dome on the Drawing Board Radio Network. So my PS3 recently crashed, and I thought it was dead. I didn't want to buy a new one. Then I found out about Fusion Electronics over in Huntington Park. In just over an hour, they had it working perfectly again. I can't thank those guys enough. Don't trash your old system when it breaks. Take it to my friends over at Fusion Electronics. Free estimates, 90-day warranty on all their work, and if they can't fix it, there's no charge. any modern gaming systems, iPhones, and more. Call them today at 323-972-3376 or email them at fusionrepairs@gmail.com. Again, 323-972-3376 or fusionwithaz repairs@gmail.com. You need it fixed, they've got you covered.
Attention techno fans, you're listening to Electro Motion by Studiotronics, just one of the many exciting tracks from their album Straight from the Source. Stimulate your brain and get your body moving to these high energy cuts. Also, check out their newest single available for download, Electro. Don't just sit there, get your fix for Studiotronics, now available at iTunes, Amazon.com, and CDBaby.com. Are you looking for Magic the Gathering singles? Shuffle and Cut Games' friendly staff has provided gamers one of the internet's biggest selections of singles since 2000. And if you have extra cards you don't need anymore, Shuffle and Cut Games has one of the most extensive buy lists around, paying top dollar for your unwanted cards. If you live near our La Habra, California location, come down and play in our weekly Friday night Magic tournaments. For more info, visit shuffleandcut.com. That's shuffleandcut.com. Shuffle and Cut Games, your source for Magic the Gathering.
Welcome everyone back to the Gamers Dome. So I'm going to actually continue that last little spot there and give the shout out to the guys over at Shuffle and Cut. I didn't actually get to do a show last week, or else I would have mentioned this, but the weekend before last, I actually went to their Grand Prix trial for Vegas, and they ran a fantastic trial. Maybe I think it's fantastic because I won it, and I now have three buys, or it might be because I used to have some affiliation with the company. I don't know, but certainly a big shout out to those guys and everything for the type of tournaments they run. Certainly check them out, shuffleandcut.com. They run a lot of great tournaments out there in La Habra. So my guest at this time is, as I said, he finished 9th place at Pro Tour Gatecrash in Montreal. He is the current Nebraska state champion because he happened to be in Nebraska at the time. He is a regular Star City Games writer. Robert Gonzales is our guest. Hey, Robert, how's it going?
Yeah, I am blessed and highly favored as always. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much. I know this was last second, and I really appreciate you coming on with us.
Well, I'm glad to be of service. You know, I always take an opportunity to talk a little bit more about Magic and especially about Vegas. So it's my pleasure again.
Excellent. So for those of you who don't know, the format for Grand Prix Vegas is Modern Masters. So sealed deck day 1, draft day 2. The set was released on June 7th and released on MTGO on June 14th. So it's already a set that hasn't been out for very long at all. They're not running sealed deck events online, and if you haven't, if you play Magic and you live in a cave, you might not know this, but it's been a little bit on the limited supply side, so it hasn't been necessarily easy to get the product. So that's one thing I want to transition, Robert. This is definitely one of the more unique events to be held outside of a Pro Tour. How have you prepared for this environment?
Well, I'm one of the lucky people to have gotten a hold of a couple of boxes at MSRP. So we have a couple of stores here, and between about 3 of us, we ended up with a case of Modern Masters. So, you know, we did a lot of sealed deck. 2 of our stores held Grand Prix trials, like one on a Saturday, one on a Sunday, and both of those were Modern Masters sealed. So I've gotten the opportunity to play a lot of Modern Masters sealed. I've done some drafts online, but ultimately, you know, the first step is to make day 2. I mean, you're going to go from a 4,000-man tournament to roughly about a 350-man tournament, you know, come day 2. So you have to be able to build your sealed deck correctly. And I'm actually writing an article that'll be coming out on Friday for Star City that will talk more about, you know, some sealed deck practice, because a lot of people just aren't going to get a chance to look at the packs. they're not going to get a chance to look at 6 Modern Masters packs and actually get a chance to build decks. So I've just had an opportunity to build a lot of decks, to test with a lot of guys here in town, and I think I have a pretty good hold on the format. I also got second at a GPT. That was Modern Masters sealed. Top 8 was draft, and my friend had only 1 bye, so I let him have the 3 buys in the finals because I'm like 100 points away from, or a little bit less than 100 points away from a 3-round bye anyway on rating. So.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, 'cause, I mean, I know none of the GPTs out here were using Modern Masters, and it's been a struggle. I can tell you as of right now, I've drafted a ton on MTGO, but haven't gotten to even touch 6 packs to let alone build a sealed deck or anything like that. So
it's going to be impossible. I mean,
yeah.
You're not going to get any packs. I mean, that's just the first thing. And the second thing is that draft is drastically different than sealed. In your draft formats on Magic Online, you're going to see sometimes 3, 4, 5, 6 of a common that's going to make your deck. You're going to be drafting one of the tribes almost every time you draft, unless you open up something ridiculous. And in sealed deck, you're going to have a couple problems. I mean, in a 4,000-man tournament, you're going to have some people who have actual insane decks that you're just not going to beat. And then on top of that, you have to build yours correctly to even give you a shot to finish X2 on the day. And I think what a lot of people, and what I'm going to talk about on Friday, is that your sealed pool, when you open this up, you're going to have to first take a look at your bombs. You're going to have to know beforehand what the bombs are in the format. Okay, so, we're talking about obviously things like, Una is insane. Moloku is insane. Kakusho, is good. It's a good big flyer. Those, you got to have an idea of what the bombs are and what you're supposed to be building around. And then from there, you're going to build your deck. And literally, I feel that Modern Masters is super bomb heavy. If you open one of the crazy cards, you need to be playing with it, especially in sealed. Elspeth, swords, all of those things, you just have to be playing with.
Yeah, and you've kind of gotten into the question there that I was going to ask, was the differences between draft and sealed. And it seems to me like you're right. You can go into a draft and you're going to be able to draft something that has a lot of synergy, but in sealed deck, you don't have that luxury of being able to choose your cards.
No, and the other problem that you're going to have is when 4,000 people show up for a Magic tournament, there's only so many pros in the universe, okay? So normally at a GP, you're going to have, I would say, maybe 80 or less, I would say, quote-unquote, professional Magic players. At this tournament, you're going to have a lot of people who have never played this game before, okay? You're going to have a lot of people just showing up to get cards because there's a lot of, equity in opening Modern Masters packs. They're trying to get foiled Tarmogoyfs, all of that. So that being said, it's going to be in the first couple of rounds, especially if you don't have buys, you're going to have to put people on some really random builds and some really random cards. And I feel like, again, most people are still thinking like draft. So you can get through the first 3 or 4 rounds like with an okay deck, but you're never going to get to an X2 record unless you go. I literally feel it goes. The first thing is you got to talk about continuity and rares. And then once you get past your rares, let's say you don't open anything that's insane, then you got to go with straight continuity, and it has to be, start thinking draft. Look at your pool. Do you have fairy build? Do you have goblin build? Do you have affinity build? Do you have one of those tribe builds? And then if you don't have one of those tribe builds, then you're going to move into like when we were looking in the Return to Ravnica block sealeds, where you're just building a straight good stuff deck, and it's not necessarily has a lot of cohesion that way, except it's just, it's just a bunch of good cards. Maybe they're on color, but I mean, at this level, when you get into the last couple of rounds of day 1, you're going to see a lot of bomb-heavy decks. Then underneath that, it's going to be like the people who opened, the insane like triple bonfire giant decks with a bunch of other giants or whatever, some insane tribes. So you've got to, I think, in order to make day 2, you got to fall into one of those 2 pools. Otherwise, you're not going to see day 2 at all. So.
Which tribes do you think are the strongest?
I think in a sealed format, the strongest that you're going to have is giants. Simply because your giant decks have, again, they have the bonfire giant, okay? So the thing about that particular card is in the mirror, it's not very good, except that it's a 4/4 for 5, which
Yeah.
is decent. Okay, but you can cast it early off of like the goblin that makes all your giants cheaper, so that's okay. But against every other deck in the format, it literally just defeats them. Against goblins, against fairies, just casting the guy. Just if there's no other
It's game
giant
over.
on board, the game's over. Like you literally 3, 4, 5, 6 for 1 them. If you have multiple giants on the board, then forget it, because now you're blowing up their whole board. You're probably attacking for 6 or 7, and they can just forget about it. In sealed, if you open multiple of that guy, I mean, it's very easy to build those decks because you go, okay, I have 2 bonfire giants, I've got a one-eyed giant, I've got some changelings, I've got the white changeling, I've got an ivory giant, I've got some crush underfoot. It's very easy to see that deck.
Yeah.
And the only thing about the deck is that when you don't draw the bonfire giant, your deck's strictly worse. So I feel like in my particular instance, both of my sealed pools I played in the GPT were both fairies. I like being able to have counter spells. I like being able to play things during my opponent's turn. Removal, like Dream Spoiler Witches, is just insane. And in the fairy mirrors, it comes down to who has more Dream Spoiler Witches. If you can cast a spell, remove one of their things, and remove another guy, I mean, that's going to be pretty good. And even against giants, all your guys fly. So if either A, you can dodge a bonfire giant or counter it with like a logic knot, or trying to think of traumatic visions, I think is the one it's called, the blue one that counters spells for 5.
Yep.
Those are all going to be cards you're going to have to main deck in a sealed tournament, because you need counter spells for swords, for bonfires, for all of the madness that you're going to see. So ultimately, when I open my pool, after I look past the craziness of the rares, I'm looking for fairies first, then giants, because I don't think Affinity is a real deck in sealed. But actually, Thalids is a real deck, but I still would rather have fairies or giants.
That makes sense to me from a sealed environment, that it's easier to get the components. Things like Affinity, you need specific cards. I know I've drafted Affinity a bunch on MTGO, and if you get your cards, you get your cards, and if you don't get your cards, then you
you don't have a deck.
Yeah, you may be in for a very short tournament. So I want to discuss draft a little bit with you. And this is something of particular interest to me as far as some of my own strategies and stuff. So when you're sitting down for a draft, do you kind of go in with a generalized strategy of saying, I want, and certainly feel free, if the answer is yes, to not necessarily give away what your tech is, but do you go in with a strategy to say, I want to draft this deck, and outside of ridiculous bombs, everything else be damned, I'm going to draft that deck? Or do you look in the first couple of packs and then try to stick with it no matter what from there? Or do you just try to be real loose with the drafting and say, well, if I need to switch a few picks in, or something comes in the first pick, second pack that makes me change? I mean, I know in traditional draft environments it's kind of easy to be a little more flexible. I have not necessarily found that flexibility in this format. What's been your experience?
I found that in Modern Masters Draft, if you can get a signal early, like obviously pack 1, pick 1, and you pick up one of the components to one of the good tribal decks, again, like I said, Bonfire Giant, you pick up a Ravager, pick 1, something that can, lock you in to one of those tribes early. Obviously, that's going to be a huge help. I think for Thalid, every tribe has one card. So Giants has Bonfire Giant. Thalids has the Spore Thrower Thalid, the 4/4 that doubles the counters every turn. Like if you get that early, that's the one that makes the Thalid Salad, is what we call it here. Is that man just literally makes your deck insane. For fairies, if you open up like a Scion early, or that's going to put you in there. For rebels, it's a little bit different because rebel chains are very interesting. Some people move into them late, and there's nothing really, rare-wise, or, because almost all the rebels are common, that are going to make you want to go into it. So I think if you want to draft rebels, you have to just make a commitment to doing that before you sit down. You have to say, okay, I'm going to take every Blight Speaker, every Amru Seeker, Amru Scout that I see, and just draft the deck. All the other decks need a certain component. And in my Grand Prix trial top 8, I opened a Ravager. So opening a Ravager makes my decision's very easy. I just take every single artifact that comes in, and I had like triple Mirror Enforcer, Aether Vial, basically every good affinity card you could have, I had it in there. But again, that's a draft. There's going to be 3,700 players probably who aren't going to get to that draft.
Yep.
Okay. So I think that a lot of people right now are putting a bunch of focus in Magic Online onto the draft portion, and that's completely wrong. It's 100% wrong, because you're going to get this feeling for the format that is just not right. Because the format in draft, I feel, is a lot faster than in sealed, and by a lot faster, I mean they're night and day. The decks are just so much more focused in draft, and in sealed, you're going to have, I think one of the cards in sealed that people are really underrating is Trompe the Domains. I feel like every sealed deck should be playing Trompe the Domains, no matter what colors you're in, no matter what tribe you're playing. You need to find a way to splash the card, because so many of the sealed matchups become these heads-up stalemates, and in draft, it's not that way. In draft, it's just like, bam, 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 are you dead yet? Or, oh, you dropped a Sword of Fire and Ice. I'm playing red-blue. I can't win, And I think it's the actual gameplay in draft is a lot less skill-intensive in the first 4 turns. For first 4 to 5 turns, because you're going to win or lose the game in those first 4 or 5 turns, and your deck is just going to do what it does. Whereas in sealed, everything is the beginning game. You're never going to lose a game of sealed usually in the early game. It's always you make a mistake in the mid game, like turn 7 or 8, and you get punished for it on turn 13. Or somebody draws a Trompe the Domains, or somebody has things like Stir the Pride have a lot more value in sealed, and I think that's another card you need to be playing with. Just being able to give all your guys +2/+2 at instant speed is very, very good. So, but back to what I was saying about draft is, when you sit down and draft, if you're going to go, if you have to make a commitment to play Rebels early before you sit down. Every other tribe is going to be conditional on what you open, if it's the rare, and obviously if you get past one of those really conditional cards that you maybe didn't open, then you're going to switch early too. But switching into pack 2 is probably lights out, because somebody has at that point 8 Rebels in their deck from pack 1, and you just can't compete, because now you're trying to get into another tribe and it's all gone. So
draft for me has just been like constructed light.
Right, exactly.
I feel like it's constructed only instead of 4 of a card, you're playing 3 of a card, and you have a 40 card deck. I mean, it's kind of the way it's mostly been, and I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, from everything I've seen, I mean, I've been playing this game for 18 some odd years at this point. I've drafted a few environments or sealed decked a few environments, and this one, I can't ever remember an environment that seems like the sealed deck and the draft would be more different.
Yeah, it's just crazy, because I've been playing since '93. I've literally played every sealed format you can play, and there's been some other formats where sealed and draft were drastically different, but it hasn't been that way in a while. Okay, like I feel like Innistrad sealed and Innistrad draft were that way as well, because like a lot of the Innistrad draft decks were like these crazy werewolf decks that you just like couldn't beat, but now the thing about it is that, like you said, it's like constructed light, because everyone's deck is just crazy. Like, you finish your draft, and you're like, oh my gosh, this draft is insane, I'm the best player in the world, and you play against your opponent who's also got an insane deck. It's everybody at the table has an insane deck except for the one guy who switched packs, or switched in like the middle of pack 2, and he has nothing. But everyone else has a great constructed deck, and that's the difference. Is everyone, I believe, needs to be focusing on sealed. Just do your thing in sealed, practice, and the only way you can practice it is maybe on like Magic League or something like that, because getting actual packs is not a thing. But that's going to be your deal breaker, because making day 2 of this tournament is going to be a big deal. I mean, imagine you're going to be going from 4,000 to like I said 300 or 350. That's a big statement, and I think that should be an accomplishment in itself. And if you make day 2, your prize is you get 6 packs of Modern Masters for day 2. So or you go and get drunk Friday night or Saturday night, whatever. So it's just a matter of how your preparation is and what your actual goal is. If your goal is to try to qualify for the Pro Tour, you need to go undefeated day 1. So you've got to be very good at sealed deck and knowing the builds.
Excellent. And speaking within the same vein right now, I literally just got a message from the tournament organizer from Vegas as you were talking just now.
Mm-hmm.
And so our current pre-registration number as of right now is 3,208.
Mm-hmm.
And very important to note, there will be no on-site registration on Saturday.
Nope.
You can register online, you can register Friday, but if you show up Saturday and you're not registered, you're not playing. So this is, it makes total sense with something like this. So if you're hearing this and you are interested in going to Vegas, make sure you are pre-regged or you register at least on Friday. So
and here's the problem though, is that today is what, Tuesday?
It is.
I mean, so this is kind of, I feel it's kind of late to tell somebody, oh hey, by the way, you can't register on Saturday like every other GP in the history of Magic, But I understand, obviously if you have 1,000 people or 500 people show up on Saturday and they want to register, that's going to create a problem, But on the same token, I mean, gosh, it just seems like Friday is going to be the biggest insane thing you've ever. I think Friday is going to be more insane than Saturday, and here's why. Friday, everybody's going to have to come register. Not only is everybody going to register, they're running a free, zero cost mini master of Modern Masters on Friday. Okay, that event will probably be bigger than any GP ever. Just the actual mini master. But at the same time, that morning, they're only giving out 1,500 playmats. So how many people are going to be in the room on Friday trying to register, trying to play the mini master, trying to play side events, trying to get cards, trying to sell cards, trying to get to the to the artists? I mean, I think Friday is what we're going to see. If there's any problem that happens in the tournament, it'll be Friday, not Saturday.
Yeah, I could tell you that the registration opens, or the doors open at 9 a.m. on Friday, and yep. I am going to be there at 9 a.m. on Friday, if not earlier.
You're going to have to be there earlier because everyone has the same plan. Think about what I personally think the playmat's really sweet, and I think that by this being one of the, the signature Magic event of all time, probably, I think that being said, everybody's going to want to get their hands on this playmat. So you have 1,500 people who are, let me rephrase, there's 600 VIPs, I think? 600 or
700.
Okay, 700 VIPs. So half of the playmats are gone. Okay? So you've got 800 playmats for everybody else because the VIPs are guaranteed their playmat. And what is that line going to look like? What if the playmat ends up being worth $50? Okay? I think you might need to even be there an hour and a half early, just to make sure that you're in line to get this particular playmat. And I think it's going to be in high value, kind of like the GP Lincoln playmat. This is going to be, like I said, the largest event in the history of Magic. It will probably carry that record at least for another 5 years.
I think I have said for a while that I feel like Wizards of the Coast intentionally set this to make it so that this would never be broken.
It is between the location, which is Vegas, between Modern Masters Frenzy.
Yep.
Because I have people here from Albuquerque who are driving to Las Vegas who don't play competitive Magic, who are bringing their girlfriends, wives, boyfriends, best friends, just to sign up for the PAX. Okay? So, I mean, everyone's trying to live the lottery. It's kind of like the Gold Rush in Charlotte. What the exception is you can play with your Gold Rush card, and the equity of opening your PAX is like, okay, if it costs let's say it costs, I don't even remember how much the entry fee was, $50, $60?
60.
Whatever. Okay, it's $60. So the packs themselves retail for 10. So, and you can't buy them even at 10 most places.
Yeah.
So you get 6 packs for $10. So you basically just get into the tournament for free. And you free roll the whole day. I mean, that's fine. And on top of that, you have all the crazy side events. You're going to have Modern Master side events for draft, which don't fire almost anywhere in the country, and they'll be firing all weekend long. And I've just been thinking about how many cases of Modern Masters are actually on site. I mean, if it hits 4,000, you're talking about 24,000 packs of Modern Masters.
It's a lot.
24,000.
And that's just to run the sealed.
Tournament. That's just to run the sealed. Then you have next day, let's say 350 people make it. So 350 people times, that's going to be another 6 packs apiece. So now we're talking about almost another 2,400 packs day 2, plus all of the side events.
Well,
I mean,
three, exactly.
Yeah,
2,100, I believe.
Okay, yeah, somewhere in that neighborhood, and plus all the side events. This event itself, is that's a lot of packs of Modern Masters to be putting into the format, or into the community. And I feel like this is the only place that people can actually get a hold of the packs, and I think that's why they're there. I think you're going to see a lot of people just sign up for packs, maybe play a couple rounds, and go do side events the whole day just to get a hold of packs. Not that Modern is a real format. A lot of these people aren't buying packs because they play Modern. They're just buying packs because they want to open Tarmogoyfs and sell them. So yeah. That's, or Dark Conflict, whatever's valuable. But this isn't the place to do that, because if there's, let's just say on average there's 30,000 packs that are going to get opened. Probably more than that, but let's say 30,000 packs get opened this weekend. What's the value of a Tarmogoyf on Sunday to the dealers? I mean, they're going to be touching thousands and thousands of Tarmogoyfs. So I just don't feel like there's a lot of equity in selling it right then, which people will realize shortly. And then I think we could have a sell-off in the next couple of weeks. So if you're an investor, I would be trying to ship all of my Modern Masters, any Modern Masters rare right now before the GP, and then maybe try to sell them 6 months after the GP, because there's going to be a period of time where there's going to be a ton of these cards on the market.
And let's also not forget the free mini masters is probably going to open another 7,000 or so.
I just spaced on it. You're right. I mean that's just a lot of packs.
Yep.
And it amazes me. Obviously it's a lot of excitement, but I think if you're a pro and you say, I need pro points, I wouldn't even show up to Vegas. I would not go to Vegas like, oh yeah, I need to, get 1 pro point for my 5 GPs a year.
No.
This isn't the tournament. Stay home. Go to a Star City Open.
But people are still going to want to show up because it's this tournament. I mean,
right.
Everyone. And here's the thing: a number of pros they have egos. I know, and who doesn't want to say that they won this tournament?
Oh yeah. I mean, it goes a long way to building your brand. Like if I go, let's say I went to Vegas and let's say I top 8'd, I don't even have to win. Just top 8, the largest GP in history. I mean, you have all the people on site who are going to know about you. I think it's a ramping opportunity for the right person who wants to start their Magic career or start their writing career, whatever it is. I mean, because no one's played an event this big. I mean, Charlotte was the last one, but nobody cared about Charlotte because it was in Charlotte. I mean, who knows who won? I know who won Charlotte because I was there. But most people don't know who won Charlotte. People will know who won Vegas for the rest of time. I mean, I think that's just going to be one of those things like, hey, Joe Schmo, went undefeated in the largest tournament ever created, like something to that effect. And if I win it, you can guarantee I will never shut up about that for the rest of my life.
Man, I the last time I played a GP in Vegas, I top 8'd it, and I haven't shut up about that. That was only like 450 players.
Hey, whatever. Top 8ing a GP is an accomplishment.
Yeah, my mouth would be running quite some time if I top 8'd this one. Well, Robert, I thank you so much for coming on and talking with us here. This has been a fantastic interview, and we're both going to be in Vegas. I should be pretty easy to find. So, and I have a feeling with you and the bow tie, you're not going to be too hard to find either. So,
I am easy to find. Yes, please come say hi. And anybody out there, definitely come say hi. We'll talk Modern Masters. I'll help you with your pool if I can.
Excellent. Well, thank you for coming on.
Will do. Talk to you soon.
Okay. Wow. Robert Gonzales. That was an interview. Chip, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
I hope I didn't lose you in there.
Oh, no. He was a wealth of knowledge, so I was just letting him speak his mind.
Uh-huh.
A lot of people listening are a lot better off now preparing for this weekend. So
yeah, I feel like sometimes you got to know when to talk and know when to shut up, and I was more than happy to shut up for the most part and let him talk.
Yeah, it was very enlightening, especially the difference between sealed and draft. He's got a really good point as far as, all the people practicing the drafts right now online.
Yep,
a lot of them it's going to be for naught.
They're getting some bad information. It's myself included. So, well, when we come back, we're going to hit our Kickstarter of the week. We're going to talk about what we've been playing. You are listening to the Gamers Dome on the Drawing Board Radio Network. Do you need professional, reliable dog walkers, house sitters, or cageless in-home boarding? Check out my friends over at Leash and Lodge. They use GPS tracking for their walks, so you know they're always showing up when they say they do. With a 5-star Yelp average, they're the only guys you need to know. When you sign up, mention promo code DOME to get $15 off your first invoice. Check them out now at leashandlodge.com. That's leash, A-N-D, lodge.com. Leash and Lodge, because the better way is finally here.
Do you have a bookshelf full of comic books right next to the one full of video games? Are you a Whovian? A Trekkie? Do you aim to misbehave? Are you friends with Leonard and Sheldon? Do you tabletop with Will? If you answered yes to any of these, I have a new podcast for you. Digital Nerdage, the nerd culture podcast, visits everything in the world of nerd. Check it out at www.digitalnerdage.com.
Welcome everyone back to the Gamers Dome. I so didn't want to cut that last interview off. I just wanted to keep listening, because especially being that I'm going to be one of those 4,000 players, I was like, that is some good knowledge right there.
Yeah, it is, definitely. It sounds like the Giants are kind of the way to go, at least as sealed goes.
Yeah, and I can see that a lot. As the guy who's played a lot of sealed and has got a good ideas of the cards and the rarities, I can certainly see Giants being a pretty sick sealed deck to go. But I want to move to our Kickstarter of the week. So this week we are backing something called One the Game, and it's a neat little dice game, which I found out there, and I thought, oh, this one is actually really neat. So each player wields a tube of the one, which has 3 squeezable 2.5-inch foam 20-sided character dice, and then they have the rolling and storage tube. You choose your character and make sure you have a rolling surface, and then there's actually 4 different games that you can play. So it's kind of like a 4 games in one thing. I love the creativity actually behind this game. I thought it was pretty funny, pretty awesome. There's a lot of actually some good rewards on this one as well.
Yeah, I like the tiering that they have on this project.
Yeah, and tiering is a lot of what makes the Kickstarters work the way that they work. So I liked a lot of these things. Now, guys, we need to back this, though. We need to get a little bit of money here behind it. They need just short of 15,000, and they currently have about 1,700. So we need to put the Gamers Dome engine behind this game and see if we can get it funded. It's really cool. We're going to be posting up a link here on the Facebook page, so make sure that you're subscribed there if you're not already. If you're just listening and want to type in, it's called One the Game, and you'll easily find it when you get to it. It's awesome. It looks neat. I want to make sure that it actually gets made. So
yeah, cute little ninja and all.
So what are we playing? Chippy, I will let you start first. What have you been playing lately?
Well, you heard me rave a little bit earlier about The Last of Us, which is pretty fantastic. If you have a PlayStation 3 and you don't have this game, shame on you. It really is an experience. But I don't know, I've been kind of dabbling around a little bit. My Wii U's kind of been collecting a little dust, except for a couple nights when people come over to drink, which then is a pretty awesome party console. Been dabbling some in StarCraft 2. You know, Heart of the Swarm came out a few months ago. First player campaign's kind of... It's not too bad, but it was kind of easy. At points it kind of felt like a lot like Warcraft 3. Kerrigan's pretty beefy. So it kind of made it feel like easy mode a little bit. And also been with some coworkers, been kind of dabbling around with that Marvel Avengers Alliance. Also thinking about looking into that Marvel Diablo style game, Marvel Heroes I believe it's called. But so far everybody talking about the way they're handling the DLC is kind of frown. So well, that's kind of been on my gaming list. I mean, the Last of Us has definitely dominated it. I mean, not only is the single player great, but the multiplayer is actually really fun. It's focused on a 4-on-4, and at least the main one I've been playing called Supply Raid. Like every team's got 20 extra lives, and once those 20 lives are out, then everybody's on their last life. But you can bring in the crafting system from the single player game. So you can find these little boxes around the map that's got like alcohol and rags and nails and whatnot. And you can craft all the different things you can craft from a single player. Like making your melee weapon a one-hit kill, or creating a nail landmine, or a Molotov cocktail. And it adds like a really neat and interesting dynamic. Especially since you have to deal with that listen mode. Like, have you seen Tomb Raider?
Yeah.
Yeah, so in the Arkham games in general with Batman, you know, it's starting to become a new fad in a lot of these games. This, like, extra sensory mode where you hold down a button and, like, different things light up and stuff. Sometimes it's objects, sometimes it's places you need to go. Well, they had that in The Last of Us, and it's basically... things that make noise, or more specifically people and NPCs that make noise. So instead of it being kind of like the Uncharted multiplayer games, when you jumped into the multiplayer, what was very run and gun in The Last of Us for the multiplayer, it's very methodical. You gotta move slow. If you run around, people can jump into that listen mode and actually can see you from wherever you are on the map. So you need to sneak around. There's a lot of stealth. There's a lot of teamwork. Because with the way they've got everything set up, I mean, just like in single player, if you've got double digits in bullets for any weapon, you are rocking the town. So just having a 1-on-2 is extremely difficult, let alone if you actually run into 3 or 4 other people on the opposing team. So, and the customization of the characters is really neat too, with the way they have the loadout points and the perks. And they have this neat little like mini game where you have a clan. And you start off with like 5 people, and then as you play the games, you get cans of food for killing other players, for scavenging the bodies of people that you've killed. You know, if you don't get killed before then, and just scavenging from the map as you're playing. So you actually gain points even if you don't kill people. And you get these cans of food, and if you get enough, more people, you know, join your clan. And you get like these little missions that'll help add people to your group, and eventually you're trying to like keep them alive, quote unquote, by how well you do playing the multiplayer games. They got this neat little Facebook thing too, where it doesn't write anything to your wall, but basically all the people that join your clan are people from your friends list. So it'll be like,
nice.
You know, Scott Gerhardt planted a tree, or you know, Sean King is learning how to shoot with a rifle or whatnot. And it makes it kind of neat. It's real fun.
Excellent. So I've been, as I've mentioned a little bit, I've been playing a bit of Magic. A lot of MTGO in preparation for Vegas, and I mentioned the Grand Prix trials. I ended up playing 4 Grand Prix trials and top 8ing 3 of them before finally winning the one at Shuffle and Cut. So I was thrilled about that, and I've been kind of riding high on that because now I don't have to go through that sea of weirdness that Robert was talking about. And speaking of Robert, I really want to make sure I didn't really give him an opportunity to promote himself very much here. Robert J. Gonzales on Twitter. Follow him. He has some great posts out there, a lot of knowledge, and make sure you go to StarCityGames.com to read his articles, especially the one that's coming out Friday. I know I'm going to be reading it.
Definitely.
The other game that I got a chance to pick up is a game called Timeline by Asmodee Games, and I like this. It's a neat little cerebral game. They have a few different timeline games that are all modular. You can put them all together if you want, or play them individually. I played the Inventions one. So what it is they give you certain events. Now, the inventions, where they're talking about when were things invented. And you start with a card, one card in the middle, and then you each get 6 cards. And each time you have to take one of your cards and put it in the timeline. So with the first one, it's just a matter of putting it left or right. So did this happen before or after that event? And as it goes on, it becomes more and more complicated, where you have to find the exact point in the timeline. If you get it right, it stays in the timeline. And if you get it wrong, it's discarded, and you have to draw another card. So the first person to run through all 6 cards wins. It's a neat little history-type game that I thought was cool. A little enlightening at times, because you're like, really? It was invented that far back? Really?
So it's based off of like real historical events.
Oh, yeah.
You're trying to figure out the signing of the Declaration of Independence versus the Pilgrims landing and, the internet being formed.
Yeah, exactly. It could be, when was Scotch tape invented? When was the compass invented? Some of them go back to, like, when was fire tamed? It could be anywhere on the timeline. Some of them are easier than others. You obviously know things like when was the wheel invented and fire tamed. It was way back. And a lot of them you'll get, they'll be 20th century, 19th century, 18th century, 17th century, and you're like, because you'll get a few that's already in there on, say, the 19th century, and you're trying to find the exact right time. And you might be off by just a couple of years, and if you're off by a couple of years, sorry, you got it wrong.
So how would you know if you were right or not? Is there some index in the rule book or something that you can look stuff up?
It's 2-sided cards. One side doesn't have the date on it, and the other side does have the date. You place it in the timeline, and then you flip it over. And if it fits, it stays, and if it doesn't fit, it goes.
Okay. That's neat.
Yeah, and I believe they have an iOS or an iPad version as well, which I haven't gotten to play with, but I imagine that would be fun and a lot easier to maybe add to the game. So I kind of want to pick that up at some point. So
that sounds like a neat game.
We have actually come to the end of our show for this week. It's amazing how fast they go sometimes. So
wow.
Yeah. So thank you to all of our sponsors and everyone else behind the scenes that's helped put the show together. Chippy, thank you very much for coming on and being our guest co-host for the week. And maybe we can drag you back on at some point and do it again.
Anytime.
Excellent. So I can't actually promise for sure that we're going to have a show next week. I think that we are, but I may be, because I'm going to Vegas. If I don't make it back in time, I might not. So check the Facebook and Twitter just in case. But hopefully we'll have a show next week, and I'm hoping to get somebody from Vegas, maybe whoever wins the tournament, to give me some kind of an interview. Hopefully I'm interviewing myself, but that's not likely. So until next week, probably, this is Scott Gerhardt for the Gamers Dome, and everyone keep playing.